breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
Hey, warmer for the low. Welcome to lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got an excellent podcast for you. We're going to be joined in segment number 2 by one of our good friends, John Jansen, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler. We're going to chat with him about what we've all seen here in the first month plus of the season, the disappointments that have been the Philadelphia Phillies and the Mets, but the fact that the Phillies are starting to get things righted a little bit more. Additionally, we are going to be chatting with him about some of the teams that he's actually liked what he's seen thus far from him, and the big divide between the American League and the National League, as feels like the National League is much more locked and loaded right now than the American League. In the final segment, going to get you guys picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this baseball Saturday as we touch them all. If you do have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you for this podcast, you do have one of two ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at GUNet_81. Keep in mind, there's the name does not matter, so as per usual, please send these into the timeline. And the other way is find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. And then from there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Well, I did not get in any Twitter/X questions today. We did have ourselves a fun day of baseball on Friday. Let's take a look back at it, try to find some trends, and try to get to know these teams a little bit better.
Games from yesterday is Greg buzzing about. Here is the rowdy recap.
The Atlanta Braves continue to be the best team in all of baseball, currently 23-10. For the Rockies, they get up 6-0 in this game. They were leading 6-1 going into the 7th inning. The Braves, they not just snatched a win, but they also snatched a run line as well. 8-6 a final. Jose Quintana was actually good in this game. 1 run allowed in 6 innings. That 1 run, a solo home run to Matt Olson, 10th home run in the campaign. But then you'd have Michael Harris II in the 9th inning go deep off of Juan Mejia for his 7th home run season. Bullpen of the Rockies has been pretty solid this year, but not on this night. Zach Ognos, he gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned in 1 1/3 innings. Shane Hill, he gets a pair of outs out of the bullpen, but he gives up 2 runs, and then Juan Mejia, a pair of runs given up in his inning, including that home run. For Grant Holmes, well, you need to go Holmes. He had 6 runs, 5 of which were earned, given up in 5 innings, and gives up home run to Mickey Moniak, 9th home run season, but bullpen at his back. DDA Fuentes, along with Robert Suarez, both led to scoreless inning. The former Rocky, Anthony Molina, 2 scoreless innings to be able to get them to the window. In our day game, the Chicago Cubs, they find a way to persevere over the Arizona Diamondbacks, 6-5 the final in this one. As for the Cubs, they were up big time in this game, but the Arizona Diamondbacks do put up a 4 spot in the 6th inning after the Cubs were up by kind of 6-1, but the team holds on. Colin Reyes at hit Parade to a nice start. 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Ryan Rolson, not sharp here, 3 runs allowed in 2/3 of an inning as Geraldo Perdomo takes him deep, 2nd home run in the campaign, but Phil Matona scoreless inning. Jacob Webb, he closes things out with 2 scoreless innings in the 8th and 9th, and Zach Allen got filled up. 6 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings. From there, Ryan Thompson, 4 outs out of the bullpen scoreless. You had a scoreless inning out of Kevin Ginkel, 2 scoreless from Braden Garcia, but damage by then, it had very much been done. The Rangers were able to do some damage to the Detroit Tigers, 5-4. They find a way to persevere here. Rangers got up 4-0. They tried to relinquish that lead as Mackenzie Gore was not long for this game. 3 2/3 innings, he gives up 3 runs. Jack Flaherty was not long for this game. 4 runs allowed in 3 2/3 innings, including a home run given up to Danny Jansen, 2nd home run in the campaign. From there, cool win for the Rangers, 1 run allowed in 2/3 of an inning, but Jalen Beeks, 5 outs of the bullpen scoreless. Tyler Alexander, Jacob Junis, Jacob Latz all lend a scoreless inning, and Emmanuel De Jesus, who's been awful for the Detroit Tigers, 4 outs of the bullpen scoreless. Brendan Enifee, Brian Herter, they both lend a scoreless inning. Bert Schmidt gives up a run in 2 innings, but Tigers do enough to be able to persevere, get the job done there. Also being able to get the job done, the Pittsburgh Pirates 9-1. They take down the Cincinnati Reds. As for the Reds, Brady Singer, he was singing the blues. 4 runs allowed in 3 1/3 innings, including a pair of bombs. Going deep off of him, you had Brian Reynolds get his 4th home run in the campaign. And then you had Henry Davis, who's obviously been a massive flop as a number 1 overall pick. He goes deep for his 1st home run season, and then he would go deep for home run number 2 of the season, as well as Zachary Maxwell makes his MLB debut. And this was not what he was looking for. 4 runs, all of which weren't given up in an inning, and he gave up another home run to Marcell Ozuna, 3rd home run season. From there, Sam Moll, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. You did have a pair of scoreless innings from Louis May along with Jose Trevino. That would be the backup catcher. Pierce Johnson, he gives up a run in his inning of work, and Mitch Keller was on it. 1 run allowed in 7 innings. Justin Lawrence, Evan Sisk, they were both able to end a scoreless inning of their own, being able to give you quite a few scoreless innings. The Tampa Bay Rays, they shut out the San Francisco Giants 3-0 at the final. For the Giants, Robbie Ray, today was more like Robbie Boo, giving up 3 runs in 6 1/3 innings. Pair of bombs given up as it was home run number 5 for Yandy Diaz. Junior Caminero is 9th. JT Brubaker, 5 outs out the bullpen scoreless, but Sugar Shane McClanahan, 6 scoreless innings. Ian Seymour, Cole Sulzer, Brian Baker, they all lend a scoreless inning for the Giants. They go just 0 of 1 with men in scoring position, so not a lot doing for them. Quite a bit doing for the St. Louis Cardinals, though. 7-2, they take down the LA Dodgers. Emmett Sheehan has been shaky to start the season. 4 runs allowed in 4 2/3 innings. Gave up a pair of bombs. Alec Burleson, Nolan Gorman both get their 5th home runs of the campaign. From there, Edgar Enriquez, 3 runs, 2 of which weren't given up in an inning. Jack Dreyer, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Kyle Hurt was able to give you a scoreless inning, but Matthew Liberatore, pretty solid here. 2 runs allowed in 5 2/3 innings. George Soriano, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Gordon Gassefo, Matt Savanson, they both end a scoreless inning. So the Cardinals now 19-13 to begin the season, and the Blue Jays win a Patrick Corbin start. 7-3, they're able to take down the Minnesota Twins. For Corbin, he's been solid this far this season. 2 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings. Did give up home run to Byron Buxton, 9th home run of the season. From there, Braden Fisher, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless. Jeff Hoffman, he gives up a run in an inning. From there, you had Tyler Rogers, not to be confused with Taylor Rogers, who came in for the Twins, but the twin brothers both had a scoreless inning apiece for both of their teams, and then Louis Varland, he was able to pitch a scoreless inning, and Simeon Woods Richardson continues his rough start to the season. 6 runs, 4 of which weren't given up in 4 2/3 innings. Taken deep twice by Kazuma Okamoto, 6th and 7th home runs of the season. Eric Orze, 1 run allowed in 2 1/3 innings. Mentioned Rogers with his scoreless inning, and then you did have Luis Garcia give you a scoreless inning, but damage had been done by then. You have a Philadelphia Phillies team that's very much struggling. We're going to talk about that with John Jansen of Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, on the flip side, but they get the win over the Miami Marlins. So make it 3 straight for them. 6-5, they're able to get the job done here as Iri Perez. 2 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. From there, you had 4 runs given up in 1 2/3 innings by Cade Gibson. Gibson was taken deep in this one as it was home run number 1 of the season for Bryson Stott. Lake Picard from there, 2 1/3 innings scoreless, and Zach Whelan and Dylan Wheeler, he was wheeling, and he was, 1 run allowed in 6 innings. If you, like me, had the under, by the way, man. This was a game that was 2-1 going into the 7th inning. Orion Kirkring scoreless inning, but Jonathan Bolin, 3 runs allowed in 2/3 inning. Jose Alvarado, and out of the bullpen scoreless. Brad Keller does give up a run in the 9th inning, but it was still enough for the Philadelphia Phillies to get a win and get the job done there. Also being able to get the job done, the Boston Red Sox, 3-1. They continue the demise of the Astros as Mike Burrows, 3 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, was taken deep by Jarren Duran. 2nd home run the campaign. Honestly, pitching wasn't awful. Bennett Sosa, Brian King, they were both able to give you a scoreless inning. But for the Boston Red Sox, in his MLB debut, Jake Bennett, he stepped up. Gave up a solo home run to Carlos Correa, 3rd home run of the season. That's all he'd give up. From there, Zach Kelly, 4 outside the bullpen scoreless. Garrett Woodlock, Aroldis Chapman, they both landed scoreless inning. Danny Kalum, pair of outside the bullpen scoreless, and the Astros now 12-21 thus far this season. So another L for them. Another W for the Milwaukee Brewers. 6-1. They take down the curly W's of the Washington Nationals. Jake Irvin, well, it's not been great for him the last few seasons. 4 runs, 3 of which weren't given up in 5 innings. From there, Ciano Perez, 2 scoreless innings. Andre Granillo, he gives up 200 runs in an inning. And then Paxton Schultz, 8 scoreless inning. The Miz, Jacob Mizorowski, 8 punch-outs, 5 1/3 innings scoreless. Aaron Ashby, 2 2/3 innings in long relief, gives up 1 run. You had Issa McGee give you a scoreless inning. The Nationals have been a top 3 team in terms of run creation. We're not able to develop a lot on this night. On this night, it was the Kansas City Royals offense being able to rise up. They were averaging just 2.6 runs per game away from home to start the season, but they find a way here. 7-6, they take down the Seattle Mariners. Cole Ragans continues his rough start to the season. 4 runs allowed in 5 1/3 innings, including a trio of bombs. Connor Joey makes things go for his first home run of the season. Randy Arozarena, his 3rd home run of the season. Then Julio Rodriguez, home run number 3 of the season. Then he'd go deep off of Daniel Lynch, home run number 4 of the campaign. Lynch gives up 2 runs in an inning of work, including that bomb. Nick Mirzo, pair of outs out the bullpen scoreless. Matt Strahm, Lucas Hersage, both landed scoreless inning. And Brian Wu, more like Brian Boo. 6 runs allowed over the course of 6 innings, including a pair of home runs. Vinny Pasquantino, 4th home run of the season. Jack Caglione, his 3rd. From there, you had a run given up in an inning by Jose Ferrer. Cole Wilcox was able to give a scoreless inning, and then you also had the young gun be able to come in there for a scoreless inning. And Alex Huppy, he was able to strike out the side, but not enough on this night for the Seattle Mariners. This was more than enough for the Chicago White Sox. So 8-2, they get the job done against the Slam Diego Padres, as Noah Schultz has been really good since getting called up. 6 shutout innings, 2 hits allowed. From there, you had Osvaldo Vito give up 2 runs in his inning of work, but Jordan Hicks, Tyler Davis, they're both able to end a scoreless inning, and Udamam Marquez. 7 runs allowed over the course of 5 innings. That's not great to say the least. Gave up a pair of bombs as Mutaka Murakami is MLB leading 13th home run season. Colson Montgomery is 9th. From there, Wandy Peralta, 2 scoreless innings. Ron Marinaccio gives up a run in 2 innings, but too little too late there. But this was more than enough. The Cleveland Guardians, 8-5, they take down the Athletics. The Athletics had uncharacteristically played 3 straight unders at home out there in Sacramento. That doesn't happen very often, so back on the over train as Joey Cantillo. 4 runs allowed in 4 innings, including home run to Brent Rooker, his 3rd home run of the season. But from there, the Cleveland Guardians bullpen steps up. Hunter Gaddis, he does give up a run without getting it out of the bullpen, but cleaning up his mess, Eric Sabrowski, scoreless inning, did allow an inherited runner to score. But Tim Aaron, Matthew Festa, they had a fiesta, both giving you a scoreless inning. Connor Brogdon, Kate Smith, they combined for 2 scoreless innings, and JT Ginn and Juice, well, you probably wanted to drink some Ginn if you had this start. 5 runs allowed over the course of 4 1/3 innings. From there, Hogan Harris was a hero, 1 1/3 inning scoreless. Justin Turner, 2 runs allowed in his inning of work, allows a home run to Reese Hoskins, 2nd home run of the season. Brady Basso, run allowed in 2/3 of an inning. Joe Kuhnel, he gives you 5 outs out of the bullpen scoreless, but the Guardians, they get back above 500 with that win, and the Mets, they win a game. 4-3, they take down the LA Angels as for Christian Scott, gives up 3 runs, 2 of which were earned over the course of 5 innings. Ori Soler takes him deep, 7th home run of the season, and Walber Yarena does not Yarena over this game. 1 run allowed over the course of 5 innings. From there, Brent Suter, a pair of runs allowed and a pair of outs out of the bullpen. Chase Silseth, he gets an out of the bullpen scoreless. Jose Fermin, he does give up a home run in his inning of work. Solo home run for Ronnie Mauricio, his 1st home run of the season. Nick Sandlin from there, 2 scoreless innings. But for the Angels, they went 0 of 1 with men in scoring position. 3 runs on 3 hits, so they needed a little bit more offense there. And if you're taking a look at trend-wise, what we're getting right now in Major League Baseball, it has been an overwhelming season. Right now, the over rate is just a hair below 54%. We've seen 254 overs to 216 unders. As a matter of fact, I think that's approximately 54%. Meanwhile, the favorites, they're running at 55.7%, 264 and 210 on the money line. 52 of those favorites that won outright, unable to cover the run line though. Last 7 days, favorites right around about 55%, 50 and 41 on the money line, with 16 of those favorites failing to cover the run line. So lots of 1-run wins, and the over rate 56.2% over the last 7 days, 50 and 39 to the over, with 2 games landing a push. So that's what we're seeing in baseball right now, and that's what we're getting trend-wise. Coming up next, how about if we do chat it up with one of our good friends as we look at this great sport with John Jansen, who does great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. Myself, Greg Peterson, now a part of the VSiN Family Podcast.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back in lovely Las Vegas for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Always great to be joined by this man, as we've got John Jansen aboard. He does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler, taking a look on so many different fronts, doing a great job this time of year with regards to baseball. I know he does a solid job looking at everything that you're seeing out there in the wonderful city of Philadelphia. I know that he also does an excellent job with regards to the college sports and the college football front as well. You're able to follow him on the old Twitter /X at the letter J. His last name Jansen, the number 34 altogether. And John, always great to get you aboard. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Greg. A weird start to the season for the Phils, but I think things might be turning around. Not too sure.
We shall see on that, because they were able to get on the board with a win on Friday. And at this point, you'll take any win that you can get if you're a fan of a struggling team. And just how do you take a look at things right now for them? Because they looked much better in that doubleheader on Thursday as well. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, well, it's been an absolutely awful start to the season. The good news is, somehow, some way, for as awful as things have been, they've been much better than the New York Mets this far this season.
Yes, they have. Good thing for them is they've been better than the Mets, and pretty much every team in baseball has been better than the Mets so far this season. So that's a very good thing. Look, it's been a bad start to the season. Obviously, you get a manager fired in the middle of it. Obviously, the thing happening now, I think, in the last few games, you're starting to see the bottom of the lineup. That's been their biggest issue. It's outside of Harper and Schwarber. They haven't really had much. They're getting stuff out of Bryson Stott, who's come up with a few big home runs in these games. Also, Justin Crawford with the walk-off in the game 1 of the doubleheader. So you're getting the bottom of the lineup that's hitting a little bit more. It was all stuff that was eventually going to turn around, but I think the biggest question was, How is it going to turn around? Is it going to swing back to a point where the Phillies can go on a big run and get back over 500, can, start winning, get back in the division race, things like that? That still remains to be seen. They've won a few games. They've strung together a few wins. How many of these wins can they keep stringing together? But it was always going to kind of happen in my mind. Like, it wasn't going to be as bad as it was. And it just so happens that it kind of turned around after they fired Rob Thompson. But things are starting to look a little bit better. And I think the bottom of the lineup certainly is a big reason for that.
And how big of a reason do you think, as well, is the fact that Zach Wheeler was out towards the beginning part of the season, and getting him back, I think, is so big, especially with the Phillies currently being without their main closer, Yohan Duran, to be able to help save that bullpen as well?
Yeah, just a steady hand. That is definitely a big deal. Getting Zach Wheeler back, probably your best pitcher. Christopher Sanchez has made that a bit more of a conversation, especially last season and then maybe the start of this year. Just in getting a steady hand, an extra arm, not having it be Taijuan Walker every fifth day, that definitely does help. So I think that's sort of settled down the starting rotation, and I think settling down the starting rotation helps settle down the bullpen. These have been like one-run games. It's been odd hitting. It's not been consistent hitting. It's not been the best from the bullpen or the starting rotation at times. It just so happens that they're, I think, able to survive some of these games instead of more drowning in them. Just seems like the Phillies kind of almost like what they were doing last year, just able to piece together some wins. It wasn't always the best looking wins at times, but they were able to win the one-run games. And that's what they've been doing. They've been winning a lot of the one-run games lately. So that's a big deal.
Yep, and we are starting to see that turnaround for the Phillies. As joining me right here, we've got John Jansen, does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And certainly in terms of the NL East, I think that's going to be really tough to claw themselves out of the hole that they have developed, because the Atlanta Braves have been so good. I recognize that they're losing right now on Friday as we're doing this, but they've gotten off to an amazing start to the season. But how do you take a look at things overall in the National League picture? Because I just don't know if they're going to be able to track down the Atlanta Braves in this division, even though it's very early on. Being dug a 8.5 to a 9.5 game hole is a relatively big deal. That said, though, it does feel like some of those teams in the NL Central have come back down to earth. And I do think that in the NL West, in terms of being able to fight for wildcard spots, just the fact that you've got so many great teams out there as well could be able to help their cause a bit too.
Yeah, look, the good thing is the National League East kind of coming back down to earth a little bit. It was a fun start for Miami and Washington. Both of their offensive numbers have come down. So that's sort of telling. I think, again, more competitive than they have been. But look, Phillies taking on the Marlins. This is maybe a chance for Miami early on to continue to play better, continue to be, better than the Phillies, the Mets, the Nationals, and Philly ends up coming up with game one. Obviously, they could still win the series, but I think it was pretty telling, and is telling that, Philadelphia probably is, going to work their way up to maybe second in this division pretty quickly. Only a couple of games back for the Marlins in doing so. The big thing is just what is the National League Central? Like, is this a deep division? Is it a good division? Is Cincinnati a team that is over 9 games above 500 kind of team? The Cubs have been hitting extremely well as of late. Looks like one of the best lineups in baseball. Then the Cardinals, Brewers, Pirates, all able to put some good games together. The Central's really the big one of how for real is that? Because obviously, if they're all that good, there's not that many wild card spots that are going to open up. I think you're right about the East. I hate to say it's over this early because it's not, but the Braves were always, if they were healthy, if a few guys had those bounce back years, that's a really good Braves lineup. And I think the big thing for me was just, are they going to be healthy? Are some of these guys either going to bounce back or is this kind of what they are? They're getting a lot of great bounce back years. This is a Braves team that I thought could win the division last year, that has been usually the best team in the National League East. And they look every bit of that now. I think that's there to stay, and it's just a loaded roster, loaded lineup anyway. But I think the National League just becomes interesting because of the Central. It's a lot of teams for right now that have been a little bit surprising. I don't know if I would have said the Central was a tough division coming into the year. It looks a little bit that way now. It's just that how tough and how many of those teams are going to fall kind of out of the wild card picture. But yeah, I think the Phillies are mostly looking at a wild card if they were to get into the playoffs.
Yep, and it's been so interesting to take a look at that picture because right now, if a lot of these teams in the National League were in the American League, they'd be feeling really good about themselves. Because with the American League, we've seen so many disappointments across the board there as well. The Seattle Mariners, the Kansas City Royals. It does look like the Tigers are starting to get online, but it's been a little bit of a rough season for them. The Toronto Blue Jays, the list goes on and on. How much do you look at this year in baseball, the big divide between the National League and the American League? Because I think that that's one of the biggest stories of the year thus far, because if you're a team out there in the American League, you all of a sudden have hope, and if you're a team that's fighting for a wild card spot or a division in the National League, it's really an uphill battle.
Yeah, it is. And just think, the Tampa Bay Rays are 19-12, which ends up being the second best record in the American League. They're behind the Yankees a game and a half. And the Tampa Bay Rays have maybe had like one of maybe the worst lineups, like in the bottom third lineups in baseball, and they're doing that. It is really tough to gauge, I would say, how good the American League is. Really tough to gauge which teams maybe can pull away or maybe can kind of show themselves. But really, again, it's like the Tampa Bay Rays have a good record with a bad lineup. The Athletics are playing somewhat well, even though they have a negative run differential. The American League is tough to figure out. Again, I think there are some candidates to break out, the Seattle Mariners, the Detroit Tigers, all hovering around 500. Obviously, I think the Yankees completely skilled as a lineup and a good pitching staff as well. So there's some good candidates there, but it's still, none that are quite as juggernauty or at least feel as complete as some of their National League foes. The American League just seems a bit wide open, and I just really don't know how good some of these teams really are. But yeah, the Yankees at least look to be really the top of that crop so far.
Yep, Yankees, another nice win on Friday. And other than a small hiccup that I think they had either the second or third week of the season, pretty steady as they go there. And I do think that the Rays are a pretty for-real team as well. But when you're talking about the Yankees and the Rays being two of arguably your top three teams out there in the American League, man, that shows how down it is in comparison to the National League as well. So that's been something really interesting to notice. John Jansen, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, the Gambler, is joining me right here on the Baseball Betting Show. And we talked about the big surprises, the Phillies and the Mets to this point of the season, as we're doing this now on May 2nd, as this comes out. Two of the biggest disappointments, two of the biggest surprises in all baseball. But is there a team or two that has been able to shock you other than perhaps the Rays in a good way as well? Because I talk so much about the disappointments, and I feel like the amount of disappointments in baseball this past season has been absolutely rampant. I think that it's much easier to mention the disappointments rather than the success stories. But is there a team or two that has looked better than what you thought this year, and maybe you think that they have a little bit of staying power, whether that be National League or American League?
Yeah, I think it's really the Cubs. The Cubs lineup has been so surprising. Nico Horner has been having a good year. Alex Bregman's been a good addition. Dansby Swanson feels like he's coming up with huge hits. Seiya Suzuki's been really good. Pete Crow Armstrong starting to heat up. Astros is revelation at DH, and the pitching staff's following along too. It's not the greatest pitching staff, especially the starting rotation. I don't know if it's great, but it's led by Imanaga, who's pitching well. Matthew Boyd, Colin Ray was able to put together a few good innings on Friday. It's really that lineup that intrigues me so much about the Cubs, and it's just being able to find pitching, and they've been able to find a decent bit of it so far. It's how much can it hold up, and again, how much is it worthy to be a contender? The Cubs really intrigue me so far this season because of that lineup. Again, what's really intriguing me too is, I know I've mentioned Detroit a few times on this pod, but like Detroit, I didn't think pitching would be a problem. It was more their lineup. And so far, through the first part of the season to this point, they are sixth right now in runs created plus. So that's a lineup that's like, it's getting there. I can see the moments. It's not completely fantastic, but I can see the moments. I can see exactly kind of the vision of what I thought Detroit would be. So I think it's the lineup that's more surprising me. The record isn't good. 16-17 is what it is, but they have, I think, near the top of the league, or at least the top of the American League, and at least in the AL Central, one of the better lineups. So that's been a big surprise. But yeah, honestly, it's been most of the Central: Reds, Cardinals, where they are 18-13, and the Cubs. But yeah, probably the most intriguing thing to me has definitely been just how strong that Cubs lineup is, top to bottom.
Yep, I agree with you. The Chicago Cubs, They had that nice start to the year last year, tailed off in the second half of the season. They're back in full force thus far this season. We'll see if it's going to be a mainstay for all 162, but man, they're off to a great start, and this podcast is always off and running when you're aboard, John. You're doing such a great job taking a look at this great game of baseball. You're doing an amazing job on the college football front and so much more. So, love the good people at home. Know it's all on tap for you, and how people can follow along on social media and other platforms.
Yeah, you can follow me at jjansen34. A lot of weekend programming over at The Gambler, which you can find on the iHeartRadio app. Just search up Fox Sports The Gambler. Yeah, lots of weekend programming, 9 to 11 a.m. on Saturdays, 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. on Sundays. But again, you can find it all at jjansen34.
Absolutely. And Johnny's doing such an amazing job out there in the wonderful city of brotherly love. And every single time he joins me, he lends such great insight. So big thanks to John for joining me on the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. Coming next, it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
Breaking down every game, every day in Major League Baseball. This is the Baseball Betting Show. Here is your host, Greg Peterson.
And we're back here, lovely Las Vegas, for the Baseball Betting Show with myself, Greg Peterson, now part of the VSiN Family Podcast. We've got ourselves a great slate on this Saturday. Now it is that time of the podcast. I give you picks and analysis on every game on the betting board for this Baseball Saturday as we touch them all.
If a game is listed on the betting board, Greg has a side and a total on it, so it is time to touch them all.
Do note that, as per usual, any changes that are made to these plays will be listed up on my Twitter/X feed at @GUnit_81. We're going to be going in Las Vegas rotation order. This is where we go with the National League games first in time order, then the American League games, any interleague games. Those are going to be at the bottom. That'll keep things all nice, neat, clean, and easy. Let's get things started with 9:51, 9:52 on the card. The Arizona Diamondbacks are on the road. They're facing off against the Chicago Cubs, as it is Shota Imanaga going for the Cubs. Ryan Nelson is on the bump for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Total is 7.5, over and under both at -110, -155 to -162. That number on the Cubs, and then +135 is that number on Arizona. And I did set my money line price at a -177. Right now, the initial run line that I'm seeing for the Cubs is +140. I'd rather go with the run line mainly because Ryan Nelson has been absolutely awful this year. Now, if you look at the wind conditions out there in Wrigley Field, going to be blowing in, not overly much, but is going to be blowing in. That should be able to help him out a little bit, but man, it has been brutal. 7.71 ERA for Nelson, 3.9 walks, 2.1 home runs, allowed per 9 innings. Swing and miss stuff is up a little bit, but when you have those underlying numbers, that doesn't help you out too much. And Shota Imanaga last year was really giving up the deep ball, 1.9 home runs, 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, has looked like a completely different pitcher this year. 3.15 ERA, 284 fielding dependent. He's been able to get 10 strikeouts per 9 innings, so he's really had a nice turnaround this season. Now, the Cubs bullpen dealing with a bunch of injuries. Porter Hodge is done for this season. Plays Hunter Harvey on the injured list, Caleb Theobar, so they're really relying upon Jacob Webb to be able to hold down the 40 at a sub-3 ERA last season with the Texas Rangers, and they've been able to get some relatively good innings out of Ben Brown as a little bit of a long guy as well, but for the Cubs, it's a lineup that is really heating up, top 4 team in the league in terms of run creation. Nico Horner has been great. Did get removed from the game yesterday, you do want to be noting that, but overall 375 on base with some functional power, and just the catcher spot in general. Miguel Amaya has been able to give you over 350 on base, Carson Kelly over a 400 on base, Moises Ballesteros hitting above 300. Ian Happ doesn't necessarily hit for the world's greatest average, but over 345 on base, 7 home runs out of him, and Seiya Suzuki, ever since he's come back, he's been great. Flip side for the Arizona Diamondbacks, top 5 team in terms of run creation last year. They're down a little bit this year. Honestly, the Carlos Santana injury has been a blessing in disguise because Ilyarmo Vargas is right now hitting like a 400 for the team, but they've been lacking a little bit more power. Geraldo Perdomo got off to a little bit of a slow start to the season. Now he's hitting above a 250, got a home run yesterday. Roland Arenado hitting a 275 really doesn't draw walks, but he's been solid. You're getting Gabriel Moreno off the injury list. That helps out. But again, the win situation is a little bit less than tremendous. And for the Diamondbacks bullpen, they are finding themselves once again in the bottom 10. In terms of ERA, Paul Sewald is posting up a 4 ERA. Kevin Ginkel last 2 years, 4+ ERA. Ryan Thompson was solid last year. He's been shaky this season. So do think that the Cubs get to him here, and just don't have faith in Ryan Nelson. I'm going to take the +120 or better Cubs run line, and do like this total under because the wind wind is blowing in semi-total at a 7.3, 953, 954 on the card. The Reds, and yes, we're on to Cincinnati. They're onto the road to face off against the Pittsburgh Pirates. Carmen Mulzinski is on the bum for the Buccos, and Rhett Lauder hopes to make some noise for the Reds. Reds do find themselves as underdogs of plus 115, minus 130 to minus 135, seeing as high as minus 140 out there on Pittsburgh. Total on this game is 8. The over is minus 110 to minus 120. The under is between even to minus 110. And with the Reds, I did set them at a plus 134. So willing to go up to a minus 133 here with the Buccos. For Carmen Mulzinski, it's been a little bit, shall we say, up and down from thus far this season. He was coming out of the bullpen mostly last season. When he was a starter, he was a little bit more shaky, but does look like he's going to be able to find it this year. Recognize that he's got a 4.13 ERA, but the 229 fielding dependent has yet to give up a home run in 28 and a third innings, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. I've been pretty impressed there. And for Red Lauder, while the ERA is pretty solid, a 3.18 ERA, just not a guy that overly impresses me. 6.6 strikeouts per 9 innings. He keeps the ball in the yard. He's given up 0.3 home runs per 9 innings, but I do think that regression is going to be coming here, and that's a big reason why I'm in on this over. I did set my total at an 8.1. You've got a lineup for the Pittsburgh Pirates that has been in the top 8 in terms of run creation at home, getting over 5.4 runs per game. O'Neal Cruz was not moving the line last year. This year he's been able to do a great job with 9 home runs, sitting over at 250. Brandon Lau has been able to be loud as he's right now, giving you about 8 home runs. He's moving the line. Ryan O'Hearn, Nick Gonzalez hitting a 300 plus has been big, and after Brian Reynolds was a bit of a disappointment last year, up above a 350 on base this season. Meanwhile, for the Reds, it's a very top-heavy lineup because Ellie De La Cruz, Sal Stewart, these guys have been great, over a 350 on base, combined 19 home runs entering into the series, but they're currently without Eugenio Suarez, who was one of the big bats, and the guys at the bottom, Tyler Stevenson, Cabrian Ace, TJ Friedel, Matt McClain, only a 225 or lower with really not a lot of power. That's very much impacting this team. Now, what the Reds have going for them is a really good bullpen. They're currently a top 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I still don't trust in Emilio Pagano and Graham Ashcraft. He's currently on the bereavement list, so might not be available for the entirety of the series, but Pierce Johnson, Brock and Roll Burke, these two guys had a sub 350 ERA at their respective stops last season. They've been solid. Tony Santillan's been able to give you some good innings. Connor Phillips has been able to do a nice job as well, so these guys have been able to step up in that bullpen. And for the Pirates, while I don't necessarily trust in Gregory Soto, you've been able to get good production out of some of these guys, like you don't mess with the Yohan Ramirez, Isaac Manson, Mason Montgomery, give you sub 375 ERAs. Justin Lawrence was really good last season. He has seen his ERA tick up a little bit, but I think that he's going to be able to get back to where he was a season ago. So I did set the Pirates here at a minus 134. We'll go up to a minus 133 on that money line, and I do like the over, so I tell at an 8.1, 955, 956 on the card. The Brewers are going to be on the road against the Washington Nationals. Foster Griffin goes for the Nats. Kyle Harrison goes for the Brewers, and the Brew Crew do find themselves as a favorite here between minus 126 to a minus 136, plus 108 to a plus 115. That number on Washington, we're seeing the total anywhere between 7.5 to 8.5. So all over the place here on the 8.5, under is minus 120, the over is even. On the 8, over is minus 115, under is minus 105. On the 7.5, over is minus 120, under is even. I set my total at 8.3, so I personally would be looking at a 7.5 to an 8 to the over rather than an 8.5 to the under, mainly because Washington Nationals are dead last in the National League in terms of overall ERA. Now, Foster Griffin has been really good for this team. He was spending the last few years overseas. He does have some underlying numbers that are a little bit concerning, but right now he's been able to supply the team with a 267 ERA, 435 fielding dependent. It's giving up about 1.3 home runs, 2.7 walks per 9 innings, functional swinging miss stuff, about 8 strikeouts per 9 innings, and I love what I've seen out of Kyle Harrison thus far this season. I always felt like he had some good upside, and he's been able to deliver on that thus far. 228 ERA, 11.4 strikeouts per 9 innings, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings. Now does have to face off against a Nationals team that entered in the series in the top 5 in terms of overall run creation, as James Wood, CJ Abrams, these guys have been carrying the mail for the team. Abrams, a 400 plus on base, 8 home runs. James Wood, 30 plus home runs last season. He is already up to 10 thus far this season, but then the guys around them are doing a good job in terms of being able to find a way on base. Jacob Young has been presentable. Jorbit Vivas is hitting above a 250. You've had Dallin Lyle find a way to move the line. Curtis Mead, a little bit up and down, but he's been solid. And then on the flip side, for the Brewers, it's once again just playing a lot of small ball. They have had Jake Bauers and Gary Sanchez give functional power 5 home runs apiece, and Bryce Terang is up to 4 home runs himself, but with Garrett Mitchell, he's up to a 375 plus on base. Sal Frelick, after a rough start to the season, seems to be getting online. Brandon Lockridge has been able to find a way on. William Contreras continues to hit above a 285. Now for the Brewers, last year they were a top 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. That's regressed a little bit this year, mainly because of the issues of Trevor McGill. They did have to place on Azerpa along with Jerry Koenig being on the injured list, but Aaron Ashby, Grant Anderson, Abner Uribe all had sub-3.25 ERAs last season. Other than Uribe, those guys are back there. The alternative Hall has been able to give you sub-2 ERA, and it's just really tough to trust in this Washington Nationals bullpen. Brad Lord has been a relatively good long guy for them. Paxton Schultz below 4 ERA, I guess that's okay, but I mean, when you're relying upon the likes of Cino Perez, Gus Varland, PJ Poulin, that's just not a place where you want to be. Do you think that the Brewers are going to be able to rack up some runs here and get the job done? Set the Brewers on the money line at a minus 146. Going to be willing to lay that money line, and like I said, a 7.5 or an 8. Going to be looking at the over rather than an 8.5 to the under. 957, 958 on the card. The Phillies are going to be on the road against the Miami Marlins. Andrew Painter is on the bump for the Phillies, and Max Meyer is on the bump for the Fish, and the Marlins, who find themselves as minus 112 to minus 115 favorites. Minus 104 to minus 105 is that number on the Phillies. 8.5 is the total. Under is minus 115. The over is minus 105, and I did set my total at an 8.1. I do like the under because the Phillies have not been able to do a ton on offense, and for Andrew Painter, it's been a rough season for him. If you look at an ERA perspective, 5.25 ERA, he's been much better than that, in my opinion. Not some sort of strikeout artist right now, getting 7.9 strikeouts per 9 innings, but 0.8 home runs, 2.3 walks per 9 innings. He's been relatively solid, but everyone around him right now is just completely letting him down. And then for Max Meyer, he's been solid this year, 10 strikeouts per 9 innings. He has given up about 3.6 walks per 9, but overall has been able to do a rock-solid job for this team, keeping the ball in the yard, giving up 0.6 home runs per 9 innings, and the Phillies are shockingly a bottom 5 team right now. In terms of run creation, they're only getting about 3.7 runs per game, and last year had some pretty demonstrative home and road splits. You're starting to find Trey Turner picking up a little bit more. He's back to hitting right around about a 250 with a little bit of functional power, but JT Realmuto being on the injury list has hurt them, as they have not been able to figure out that catcher spot without him. Kyle Schwarber, 11 home runs, and he's now giving you over a 370 on base. Bryce Harper has been able to give you 6 home runs. He's been giving you over 340 on base. But Adolis Garcia, 3 home runs and not really getting on base. That's a little bit of an issue. Bryson Stott, Alec Bohm in the infield have not really given you a lot. And for the Miami Marlins, this is not some sort of power hitting team. Liam Hicks has been great. 7 home runs, hitting above a 300, but lots of guys that just find a way to be able to get on. Javier Sanja, Otto Lopez, Xavier Edwards, all above a 315 going to yesterday. Jacob Arce hits for no average whatsoever, but when he gets on, he steals bags. He's got 21 hits and 10 stolen bases this far this season. Getting back Kyle Stowers should be able to help out with that power as well. Marlins were a little bit shaky first week or so of the season with regards to the bullpen, and Pete Fairbanks is on the injured list, but John King has been able to give you sub-2 ERA. Lake Bakar is a nice long guy. Andrew Nardi and Anthony Bender, these two guys had a sub-3.25 ERA last season. Same with Calvin Fauché. I think that these guys are going to be able to bounce back. And for the Philadelphia Phillies, Yohan Duran, their main closer, is currently on the injured list. That absolutely destroys this team. They had to pitch 18 innings on Thursday, so that didn't help them out either. Tanner Banks was solid last year. He's posting up an ERA that's above a 6. They're getting back Jonathan Bolin off the injured list. He's got an ERA above a 5. Orion Kirkering getting him back is solid. He and Brad Keller have been able to give you presentable innings, but Jose Alvarado, since the drug suspension last year, has not been the same guy. So minus 122 or better, looking at the Fish. And then with this total at an 8.5, I do like the under. I set mine at an 8.1. 959, 960 on the card. The Dodgers are on the road against the Cardinals. Michael McGreevy goes for the Cards. Hiroki Sasaki is on the bump for the Dodgers, and Dodgers find themselves between minus 142 to minus 149 favorites. Plus 120 to plus 125 is that number on St. Louis, and the total is 8.5 to 9 on the 9. Over is minus 110 to a minus 110 on the under as well. On the 8.5, over is minus 115. Under is minus 105, and I did set the Dodgers at a minus 155. I like them on the money line. Now, Hiroki Sasaki has been all over the place as a starter. I know there was some poll that voted him the most disappointing starter of the year thus far, and rightfully so. 6.35 ERA, 7.19 field dependent, 2.8 home runs, 5.2 walks allowed per 9 innings. Going up against Cardinals team that has been in the upper half of the big leagues in terms of run creation. They haven't necessarily been amazing, but still, you've had Jordan Walker be able to supply you with 9 home runs. Nolan Gorman is just not a guy that I necessarily love because he doesn't do a great job moving the line. I think that you need a little bit more power out of a guy that really doesn't get on base the way that he does, but Alec Burleson has been able to give you over a 340 on base. You got a pair of guys in J.J. Weatherall, Von Herrera, that both hit right around about 250 to 255, but both are also supplying over a 350 on base. You've had Nathan Church step up with 5 home runs and less than 100 bats. Now on the flip side for the Dodgers, this team is averaging darn near 6 runs per game away from him. Max Muncy with his 9 bombs, darn near 400 on base, has been great. Andy Paz, he's hitting above a 300. He's been able to give you 5+ home runs. You've got Will Smith getting jiggy with it. Last year, 400 on base. Freddie Freeman has been a little bit hot and cold this far this season along Teoscar Hernandez, but still, Shohei Ohtani's doing a great job being able to get on base. And for the Dodgers, I do think that this bullpen is going to improve moving forward. They did have the unexpected injury to Edwin Diaz, and they're also without Brock and Roll Stewart, but You've got a pair of guys in Alex Vesia, Jack Dreher, that has sub 3.25 ERA last season. Tanner Scott a few years ago was one of the better relievers in all of baseball. And for the Cardinals, this has been a bottom 7 team in terms of bullpen ERA. It does feel like they're finding their footing, as you've got Jojo Romero last year at a sub 350 ERA. Been a little bit on cold this year, but feels like he's getting back to his good form. Gordon Gustafo is giving you like a 1 ERA, and Riley O'Brien has been solid, but Matt Savanson over an 80 ERA. They were trotting out there a few guys that they had to send down to the minor league level, like Chris Roycroft. Ryan Stanek has over a 6 ERA. George Soriano is out the answer. And for Michael McGreevy, very much a pitch contact guy. Not a guy that really is going to hurt himself or anything like that, but going up against the Dodgers lineup, I just don't think that that's necessarily going to be amazing for him. Right now for McGreevy, 2.97 ERA, but a 4.27 field dependent, giving up just 1.4 walks per 9 innings, but also 1.4 home runs per 9 innings, 5.7 strikeouts per 9. I do think that he gets lit up in the start. So with the Dodgers, set them at a minus 155. Not going to go run line, but I'm going to go money line, and I do like the over semi-total 9.2. 961, 962 on the card. The Atlanta Braves are on the road against the Colorado Rockies. Chase Stolander is on the bump for the Rockies, and Chris Sale hopes to not sell for the Braves. Currently, this is a game that's off the board because they don't know if Stolander is going to be the starter or the bulk guy, but I've got my handicap. With the Braves, I'd be willing to go up to about a minus 137 on the run line, set their money line price at a minus 217, so need at least 218 to take a shot on the Rockies. Set a total of a 10.4, 10 or less, like the over 10.5 or higher, the under. Both of these starting pitchers have been really good, so 10.4 is actually quite low for Coors Field, in my opinion. Got a guy in Sale who's seen a little bit of a dip in his strikeout stuff from his season ago, but still has been plenty effective. 2.31 ERA, closer to a 3.93 fielding dependent. He has given up 1.3 home runs per 9 innings and the 11.8 strikeouts per 9 innings from his season ago. That's down to about 9.8 this season, but again, small sample size. He's still not giving out a lot of walks. He's still been able to get the job done. It's backed up by one of the better bullpens in the big leagues, and the Rockies have actually been a top 12 team in terms of bullpen ERA as well. And Chase Stolander mostly has had openers come in for him. In his last appearance, he was able to make the true start against the Mets. 7 shutout innings there, and he's been great. 2.25 ERA, 3.04 fielding dependent. Do be mindful, though, he hasn't pitched a lot at home this season, and last season when he was at home, his ERA was about 3 points higher than it was away from him. Again, both of these teams have been able to do a very good job in the bullpen. Recognize that Victor Vodnik for the Rockies has an ERA that is well above a 5, but Jay Nill, along with Jimmy Harrigan, these are all guys along with Juan Mejia that had a sub 4.25 ERA last season, so I do think that Vodnik is going to return to form, and Antonio Sensatella has actually been really good in this bullpen for the Rockies. They're a better team than they were a season ago in terms of moving the line, getting on base. Mickey Moniak has been very good in terms of driving in runs, 8 home runs, hitting above a 300. TJ Brownfield has been able to give you about a 330 on base along with Hunter Goodman. Goodman up to 9 home runs this far this season. Now, the likes of Kyle Karros, Ezekiel Tovar, Jordan Beck, you just need a little bit more out of these guys, but it's a better lineup than it was a season ago. And for the Atlanta Braves right now, top 2 team in the big leagues in terms of run creation with about 5.6 runs per game, and they're doing this with Ronald Acuna Jr. honestly having a slow start to the season. Entering into the series 2 home runs, hitting at 240. You expect a little bit more there, but Ozzie Albies, Drake Baldwin, both hitting for over a 300 with 7 home runs apiece. Matt Olson, 9 bombs, 370 on base. Austin Riley still looks to be a little bit banged up from last year. He and Mike Yastrzemski haven't necessarily given you too much, but Dom Smith is hitting above a 300. Mauricio Dubon is moving the line, and for the Atlanta Braves, the former Rocky in Tyler Kinley, he's been able to do a nice job. He's been able to give you a sub 250 ERA since coming on over from the Rockies at the trade deadline last season. Raciel Iglesias is on the injury list, but Robert Suarez was a closer by trade with the Padres. He's been solid. Dylan Lee's been able to give you sub 3 ERA. Now they've got Ronaldo Lopez for even more depth in that bullpen as well. So it's an interesting spot here. I did set the Braves to where I'm willing to lay up to minus 137 on the run line, plus 218 or better. Looking at the Rockies, and then 10 or less, like the over 10.5 or higher, the under. 963, 964 on the card. It is the Orioles. They are going to be on the road against the New York Yankees. Ryan Weathers hopes to weathers the storm for the Yankees, and we should be getting Cade Povich here for the Orioles. A few places have posted this with Povich being the starter. Plus 130 on the Orioles, minus 150 to minus 155. That number on the Yankees with a total of 8.5. Over is minus 115. Under is minus 105, and for the Yankees, made them a minus 154. So we're going to go up to about a minus 153 or so on the money line. For Ryan Weathers, he was seeing an uptick with his swing and miss stuff last season and has been able to do a pretty rock solid job thus far this season in terms of getting those whiffs. 3.21 ERA, up to 10.7 strikeouts per 9 innings, is giving up the 1.3 home runs per 9 innings. But all in all, it's been a relatively solid season for him. And for Kyle Bradish, he made just 14 starts the last 2 seasons, and he's been shaky with the command thus far this season. 4.20 ERA, 5.1 walks per 9 innings. So So he's still getting 9.3 strikeouts, 0.9 home runs allowed per 9 innings, but he's knocking himself out of starts early. Now, it's been a Baltimore Orioles bullpen that's actually been very rock solid. You've been able to get some unexpected surprises out of this team, as you've got Ryan Helsley looking like the Ryan Helsley that he was with the St. Louis Cardinals. Uncle Rico Garcia, he's done a good job being able to supply a sub 3.25 ERA really since the back half of last season. Anthony Nunez, Yunior Cano, don't you know, these guys are giving you a sub 3.25 ERA, but Orioles in the bottom half of the big leagues in terms of run creation, while Gunnar Henderson has been able to give you 9 home runs, hitting for just a 214 with a 283 on base. Taylor Ward is actually hitting for no power after he had 30 plus bombs last season with the LA Angels, but he's been able to hit above a 300, 438 on base, so that's been solid. Pete Alonso has not been hitting at 200, just 4 home runs out of him. Samuel Basayo, though, he's been able to hit about a 235. He's been solid. You just need more out of some of these guys like Blaze Alexander, Kobe Mayo, Colton Cowser. These are guys hitting below the Mendoza line of a 200. They've been very much hurt by the injuries to the likes of Jackson Holliday, Jordan Westbrook, and company. And for the Yankees, last year number 1 in the big leagues in terms of run creation. Not quite back there, but they're still a top 10 team. Aaron Judge has been incredible with the deep ball, 12 home runs, and after a little bit of shaky start to the season in terms of getting on base, he's been able to supply over a 375 on base. You've had Cody Bellinger give you about a 340 on base. They are dealing with a little bit of an injury to Giancarlo Stanton, so that hurts them. And just the infield in general needs to be better. Austin Wells, Ryan McMahon, these guys hitting below the Mendoza line of 200. He just haven't gotten too much out of Jazz Chisholm yet this year as well, hitting at 202. But that's Ben Rice. 10 home runs, 443 on base has been solid. And for the Yankees, they're right around league average in terms of bullpen ERA. David Benar along Camilo Duvall were picked up at the deadline, and Benar's been fine. Duvall has an ERA well above 5, so he needs to work on that. But Fernando Cruz, about a 3.30 ERA. You've had Brent Hedrick ever since last season be pretty rock solid for the team. So I do think that for the Yankees, they do go out there, get the job done. Don't want the run line, but I'm going to be willing to lay that minus 150 money line in. Like the over, somebody tell it at 8.7. 965, 966 on the card. The Blue Jays are on the road against the Twins, as Connor Prelip is on the bump for the Twins. Dylan Cease goes for Toronto. Toronto is a minus 132 to a minus 140 favor. Plus 112 to a plus 115 is that number on Minnesota. 8 is the total. Under is minus 110 to a minus 115. The over is between minus 105 to a minus 110. And with Minnesota, I set them as a underdog of plus 167. I'm just a believer here in Dylan Cease. It's been a nice start to the season for him. He's always had that good swing and miss stuff. The big thing is always the command, and he still has had command issues. Right now, he's giving up 4.9 walks per 9 innings, but 0 home runs allowed in his 6 starts. How about 14.1 strikeouts per 9 innings, 287 ERA, 187 fielding dependent end for the Twins, even though they are in the top 12 in terms of run creation right now in all of baseball. I just don't know how much of a mainstay this is going to be. Well, you did have Matt Wallner along with Cody Clemens supply 20 plus home runs last season. Both of these guys hit below 225 last year. Right now, they're both hitting below a 210 this season. Byron Buxton is getting online, 8 home runs. He's hitting above a 250 once again, and I've loved what I've seen out of Austin Martin. He's been able to give you over a 450 on base, but then Lucas Shaw has not been able to get on base. Royce Lewis just looks injured at this point. James Outman has not been able to develop, so lots of issues there. And for the Blue Jays, they just don't have a lot of power right now. Kazuma Okamoto with his 5 home runs is right now leading the way in terms of power. Dalton Varsho, he has been able to give you a home run every about 25 or so at bats, but last year that was a home run every about 12 or so at bats. AC Sanchez hitting at 250, he's been able to give you some power. They did get back George Springer yesterday, so that should be able to help him out. Blagger Jr. coming off that last year where he had 23 home runs during the regular season before going into Inferno mode in the postseason. Over a 440 on base, you can't complain there, but you need more than the 2 home runs, and they're still dealing with the injury to, don't call his name, Alexander Kirk. For the Blue Jays, feels like they've been able to find their footing in their bullpen. Jeff Hoffman just clearly was not working out for them, along with Mason Fluharty, both of these guys a north of 450 ERA, but Tyler Rogers, Louis Varland, Braden Fisher, all supplying a sub-2 ERA. That's pretty solid. And for the Minnesota Twins, Cody Funderburk has been able to give you sub-350 ERA, but they had to put Cody Lawyerson on the injury list. Anthony Banda over a 7 ERA, Taylor Rogers over a 6 ERA. Those are guys that aren't working out. Eric Orze over a 5. So I do think that the Blue Jays go out there and they get a really nice start out of Cease. And for Prelip, this is, I believe, going to be start number 3 in his career. He's a young gun that's got some upside. You look at his first 2 career starts, and I know it's presentable. A combined 9 innings. He did get a total of 11 strikeouts in 9 innings. He gave out about 3 walks in that time span as well. You look a little bit more at the minor league level because it's a very small sample size there. Last year was posting up a 4 ERA at the minor league level. Good swing and miss stuff with about 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. So I do think that he holds his own. Somebody told 7.7, so on the 8, like the under. And for the Blue Jays, I set them at a minus 167, like them on the money line. 967, 968 on the card. The Guardians are going to be on the road against the Athletics. Jacob Lopez is on the bump for the Athletics, and you've got one Mr. Slade Cichon going for Cleveland. Cleveland is a underdog here between plus 113 to a plus 120. Meanwhile, minus 135 to minus 140. That number on the Athletics Sun is a total over and under anywhere between minus 105 to a minus 115. I do like the under. I saw by total 9.6. Now, I recognize that Slade Cichon has been just getting absolutely hammered this far this season. For Cichon, his ERA was well above a 5.50, and he's just given up way too much of the deep ball. 6.23 ERA, 1.8 home runs, 3.9 walks per 9 innings, all while getting only about 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. And for Jacob Lopez, one of the few guys for the A's that have better splits out there in Sacramento than he did away from home last year. Last season, about a 2.64 ERA at home compared to a 5.40 away from home, and he's had his struggles thus far this season, 5.84 ERA. He was giving up about 1.5 home runs per 9 innings, and the command is just way down, 7.7 strikeouts per 9. The good news is he gets a face-off against a Guardians team that is a bottom 8 team in terms of run creation. Last year, they were in the bottom 5 in terms of being able to move the line and being able to put up their runs. You do have Jose Ramirez, who's been looking a little bit better recently. He's been able to get himself back up to 6 home runs, about a 3.40 on base, but not aiming for a lot of average. Brian Rocchio, along with Daniel Schneemann, have been able to give you over a 3.60 on base. That's been solid, but Stephen Kwan has not been. He's hitting about a 2.20 for the team, and then you just have a lot of guys that in general are not giving you too much of anything. Rhys Hoskins, Kyle Manzardo, Bo Naylor. These are supposed to be guys that hit for power. None of these guys are hitting above a 205, and none of these guys have more than 2 home runs as far this season, so that's not necessarily great to say. At least Austin Hedges is right now one of their best players in terms of getting on base. And for the Guardians, last year they were top 3 team in terms of bullpen ERA. They've been more around league average this year. Now, part of that is because Hunter Gaddis began the season on the injured list, but he's been able to get some good innings out of Tim Aaron, has yet to give up a run entering into the series. Colin Holderman looks to be a guy that they can rely upon moving forward. Eric Sabrowski continues to be solid, but Cade Smith has slipped from a season ago. Sean Armstrong's on the injured list, and I've never been a fan of Matt Festa. Meanwhile, for the Athletics, this is actually about a league average bullpen team in terms of ERA, and considering half their games are out there in Sacramento, that's actually pretty rock solid. Likes of Hogan Harris, Elvis Alvarado had like a 4 ERA last year. They've been able to take some strides forward. You've had Joe Kuno be able to supply sub 3 ERA. He's been pretty good in the back half of games. Justin Sterner back to a 4 ERA where he was a season ago. And for the Sacramento A's, they are now getting back a few guys that were banged up towards the beginning part of the season. Brent Rooker has not been himself, but I think that he'll pick it up moving forward. Shea Langoliers, well, Shea is banged for 8 home runs, hitting over a 325. You've got Jeff McNeil, Jacob Wilson, both hitting above a 285. Not giving you a lot of power, not going to draw a lot of walks, but still presentable there. Carlos Cortez, he's right now giving you over a 450 on base with 4 home runs. So do think that the Athletics do a nice job in terms of being able to get to Cichon, get the job done. I do think that Lopez looks a little bit more like he did a season ago. Semi-total 9.6, like the under, with the Athletics set them at a minus 148 on the money line. So we'll lay that money line. 969, 970 on the card. The Astros are going to be on the road facing off against the Red Sox. Conley Lee Early is on the bum for the Red Sox. Spencer Arrighetti, Mom Spaghetti, is on the bum for the Astros. Astros who find themselves between plus 108 to a plus 118, minus 126 to minus 140 is that number on Boston. And with this total of 9, the over is between minus 115 to minus 120. Under is between even to minus 105 with the Red Sox. Set their money line price at a minus 136. So I'm going to be willing to go with it. For Spencer Arrighetti, he's been one of the few guys that has actually been presentable for the Astros thus far this season, but I just don't have faith in he or this bullpen. Bullpen's currently in the bottom 5 in terms of ERA, and for Arrighetti last year, 5.1 walks per 9 innings, 4.5 walks per 9 innings as far this season, and a small sample size of 3 starts, a 2 ERA, 10.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but again, the command issues that cannot come out of a start early, and then you have absolutely nobody reliable right now in this bullpen. Brian Abreu has seen his ERA go above a 7, Stephen Okert has not been great, Josh Hader is on the 60-day injured list, like man, AJ Bluebaugh has been absolutely awful. Flip side, you've got a guy in Conley Early who, it's very early to be judging him because he's only made 10 career starts, but about a 265 ERA. He's given up only 0.7 home runs per 9 innings, 10.1 strikeouts per 9. I absolutely love what he's able to bring to the table. Now for the Red Sox, this has been a bottom 10 team in terms of run creation. Last year they were 6th in the league in terms of run scoring. I don't think that they get back there, but I do think that you see a little bit of positivity here. Wilson Contreras, 7 home runs with about a 375 on base. Wilder Abreu is wild out. He's been able to hit above a 300 for this team. You don't get a lot of average out of Roman Anthony, but he's still giving you about a 340 on base. A lot of the infielders need to pick it up, like Caleb Durbin, Trevor Story hitting below a 200. Jaron Duran, outfielder, he's been only hitting about a $170. You need these guys to be able to pick it up, but for the Red Sox last year, they were numero dos in terms of bullpen ERA, have slipped a little bit this season. Greg Weiser has had his issues after a sub 325 ERA last year, but Raul Shaman is still one of the best closers in all of baseball. Tyler Semenasio has actually been pretty solid in the bullpen. Giovanni Moran has been able to give you a sub 350 ERA. Garrett Woodlock is a solid long guy, gives you about a 325 with regards to his ERA as well. So So I do think that these guys do a nice job here, and I do think that for the Astros, they're going to be able to generate a few runs. I am going to be willing to take a shot on the unders. I do think that you're starting to see a little bit of regression here. Yordan Alvarez has been great. 12 home runs over a 450 on base, and then Christian Walker, 7 home runs over a 350 on base. But Yanier Diaz, Jose Altuve, they had about a 250 apiece. Altuve looking a little bit older. He's still pretty solid, but they've been trying to mix and match in the outfield because they have been dealing with a few injuries with the likes of Joey Looper, Fido and company being hurt. Bryce Matthews hasn't necessarily given you a whole heck of a lot, and Cam Smith has been very touch and go thus far this season. So with the total, I set my total at an 8.8, like the under. And for the Red Sox, we'll up to -135 on the money line. 971, 972 on the card. The Walker Texas Rangers are on the road against the Detroit Tigers. Cadillo Montero is on the bump for Detroit. Coomer Rocker goes for Texas. Texas, they are back to being a underdog here of between +108 to a +115. Meanwhile, -125 to -132 is that number on Detroit. 8.5 is the total. Under is -115 to a -130. The over is between -105 to a +110, and I do like the over. I did set my total at an 8.7. Coomer Rocker has looked much better this year than he was 8 seasons ago. Still don't think I'm going to be able to fully trust in him, though. Right now, 3.38 ERA. Fielding dependent has been in that neighborhood about a 3.70. 7.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. He's just never been that guy that he was over at Vanderbilt, but he's been able to work on the deep ball. Last year gave up 1.5 home runs per 9 innings. This year, more like 0.7 home runs per 9, but that could see a little bit of regression, in my opinion. It's a small sample size. And for Cadillo Montero, another guy that looks improved from his season ago. Last year, 4.37 ERA, but a 4.93 fielding dependent. This year down to a 4 ERA, but 2.95 fielding dependent. He's been keeping things on in front of him. 0.7 home runs, 1.7 walks per 9 innings. So I do like the improvement that he's been able to make, and I do think that for the Detroit Tigers, you're going to see this bullpen be solid moving forward because you have a lot of guys like Will Vest, Bryant Herter, and company that a season ago were posting up a sub 350 ERA. And many of these guys have just not been themselves thus far this season. They were dealing with a few injuries, the likes of Brendan Hennepy and company towards the beginning part of the season, and you have had a mainstay for this team as Kyle Finnegan since they picked him up from the Washington Nationals, sub 250 ERA in a Detroit Tigers uniform. And it's a Tigers team that they struggled a little bit with their offense to begin the season, but now you've got Spencer Torkelson after a slow start to the season. He's up to 5+ home runs along with Dylan Dingler. You've got quite a few guys that do a nice job in terms of finding way on base. Riley Green, 4 home runs, but he's giving you over 375 on base. Kevin McGonigal is hitting above a 300. You've got Gleyber Torres hitting above a 255. You've had Javi Baez obviously be a little bit touch and go, and he's right now dealing with a little bit of injury. He was out of the fold yesterday, so that hurts him a little bit. Zach McKinstry's dealing with injury as well, but far superior to what you're getting out of the Rangers, who's currently in the bottom 8 in terms of run creation. You've had Jake Berger and Corey Seager both give you 5 to 6 home runs apiece, but both entered in this series hitting below a 215. That's a little bit uncharacteristic of Seager, characteristic of Berger, but I mean for Brandon Nimmo, he's been able to about a 290. You've got Josh Young hitting above a 300. Josh Smith is right now on a mental health break, so that's been a little bit of an issue. Ezekiel Duran, he's been giving you about a 275, and Alejandro Ozuna, I think that there's some upside here, but Wyatt Langford is dealing with an injury, and even when he was out there, wasn't necessarily great. Now the saving grace for the Rangers, they have been atop of the American League in terms of opening area, but the injuries are starting about. Robert Garcia, Chris Martin, currently on the injury list. Love Jacob Latz as a long guy, sub 325 ERA. Tyler Alexander, Jalen Beeks, while these guys don't have necessarily amazing career ERAs, both of these guys were able to fill innings. Jacob Junis, sub 3 ERA last year with the Cleveland Guardians, so interesting circumstance here. I did set the Tigers at a -138, willing to lay up to a -137 on the money line. Do like that over. Semi-total at an 8.7, 973, 974 on the card. The Royals are on the road against the Seattle Mariners. Emerson Hancock goes for Seattle. Seth Lugo is on the bump for the Royals. Royals are between +129 to +136 dogs, -155 to -162 is that number on Seattle. 7.5 is the total. Over is anywhere between -110 to even money. Under is between -110 to a -120. And with Seattle, I did set their money line price here at a -131. Being able to get +132 or higher, I'm going to be willing to take a shot here on the Royals. Now for the Royals, this has been a just absolutely awful offense. 2.6 runs per game is what they're averaging in games played away from home. That is dead second last in all baseball. Carter Jensen has actually been solid. He had the oversleep situation. He's been able to hit 6 home runs as far this season. He's hitting above a 245, so he's been able to give you some good production. And it's not like this is the world's worst team in terms of getting on base. Jack Aguilon's hitting about a 250 with a solid on base. Miguel Garcia is hitting at 275. You just need more out of Bobby Witt Jr. in terms of power perspective. Like, he's hitting at 290, but just 2 home runs entering into the series. Vinny Pasquantino, Salvador Perez combined 8 home runs, and neither is hitting above 200. That's just been a big giant failure. Then on the flip side for the Seattle Mariners, Cal Raleigh, he's now up to 7 home runs, but he's still hitting below 200, and this is a team that's having a tough time moving the line. Mitch Garver, Josh Naylor, these guys hitting below 215. Leo Rivas is giving you nothing. Connor Joe, they're trying to give him some at-bats. J.P. Crawford is sitting at 200 now for the Seattle Mariners. Guys not named Andres Munoz have actually been really good in the bullpen. They did have to put Matt Brash on the injured list, but Jose Ferrer, sub-3 ERA, Cooper Criswell, he's been presentable for the team. Edward Bizarro, Gabe Spire are more trustworthy. They had sub-3 ERAs last season, but he's been able to give you some good innings as well. For the Royals, this is currently a bottom 5 team in terms of bullpen ERA. I really think that's going to get a whole heck of a lot better, though. Alex Lang has been uncharacteristically bad with over a 5 ERA. Carlos Aceves being on the injured list hurts his team. Matt Strom has been posting up over a 4 ERA, so I do think that there's room for improvement here. I do think that Seth Lugo is just going to continue to go out there and do his thing. For Seth Lugo, he's not a guy that's going to get a lot of strikeouts or anything like that, but for lack of a better term, he's a solid innings eater. Right now, I'll give you a 2.63 ERA. Right now, in terms of his walks per 9 rate, that's 2.6 along with 0.2 home runs allowed per 9. He's only given up 1 home run in 37 and 2/3 innings, only about 7 strikeouts per 9 innings, while Emerson Hancock, he's had a career renaissance. Last few seasons, he just was not great to say the least, but he's found it this year, 2.86 ERA. He's getting 8.3 strikeouts per 9 innings. He 1.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings with a 4.60 fielding dependent. A little bit of an issue, but again, going up against this Royals offense, I think that it's going to be a low-scoring game. Do think that the Royals are being a little bit undervalued here, like what Lugo has been able to do, so set them at plus 131, so plus 132 or better, looking at the Royals on the money line, and I'm going to be in on this total under semi-total 6.7, 975, 976 on the card. It is the Giants. They're going to be on the road against the Tampa Bay Rays. Griffin Jacks getting all Jacks up to be the opener for the Rays, and Landon Roop goes for the Giants. Giants between minus 115 to minus 120 favorites, even money to minus 105 is that number on Tampa Bay. 7.5 is the total. The over is minus 120. The under is even. I do like the over. Semi-total 7.8. Now the Giants have been a bottom 5 team in terms of run creation. It's just been really not great to say the least for this team. They were banking on Rafael Devers being a cornerstone of this organization. He has not been to this point. Now, you've got plenty of guys who are able to move the line, get on base. Luis Rise, along with Casey Schmidt, are both hitting above 300, and Schmidt has been able to give you 4 home runs, so he's been able to give you a little bit of power there. Eloy Ramos has been able to hit for about a 275. Now, this team just really doesn't draw a lot of walks whatsoever. You take a look at the starting lineup on Friday, and you didn't really have anyone other than Schmidt giving you over a 345 on base, but that said, Drew Gilbert is hitting about a 275. He's still been able to get a little bit of production in terms of Matt Chapman, giving you about a 343 on base as well, but it's just been a power outage for many of these guys. Willie Adames hitting for less than a 275 on base without a lot of power has been a big issue. You do have a solid bullpen, though. Last year, this team was 4th in the big leagues in terms of bullpen ERA, back in the top 10 this season. Keaton Wynn, he last year had a sub 350 ERA. He's able to give you good length. Ryan Walker down to about a 3 ERA. Caleb Killian has been able to give you sub 2 ERA. Matt Gage has been solid. So, like these guys, and for the Rays, this is a bottom 8 team in terms of bullpen ERA. Griffin Jacks has been awful coming out of the bullpen. He's actually been solid as an opener, though, so that should be about this team out because they're going to be most likely utilizing Jesse Schultz as more of the main bulk guy in this game, but the last time they utilized Jacks in this sort of situation, they did have him throw 2+ innings. It was relatively effective there. Schultz as a bulk guy this far this season, 3.20 ERA, right around about a 4.25 fielding dependent. He only gets about 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, but does a good job not allowing walks, giving up less than a home run per 9 innings, so he's been relatively effective there. You do have the former Orioles and Brian Baker along Cole Sulzer, who will be able to give you some good innings as well. And for the Rays, this is an upper half of the big league team in terms of run creation. Junior Caminero, 44 home runs last season. He's already got 8 this far this season. Yandy Diaz is giving you well above a 400 on base, so you got plenty of guys that are finding a way on. Chandler Simpson has been hitting above 300, obviously not going to get a lot of power there, but I do think that for the Tampa Bay Rays, they do a solid job in terms of getting to a guy in Landon Roop who's been very good this far this season. Last year, he was posting up a 3.80 ERA, but he was giving up less than a home run per 9 innings. He's been able to continue to just induce soft contact, and he's been even better this far this season. 2.55 ERA, 2.77 fielding dependent, 3.6 walks, 9.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. But that said, I do think that the Rays find a way to be able to get to Roop, and I do think that the Giants get a little bit more in line with the offense. Somebody tells somebody like the over, but maybe the Rays a minus 114 favorite. I do like them here on the money line. 977, 978 on the card. It is the White Sox, and they are going to be on the road. They're facing off against the Slam Diego Padres, as it is one Mr. Michael King, who hopes to be the king for the Padres, and John Burke goes for the White Sox. Sox. White Sox who find themselves as sizable underdogs here. You're going to be getting them anywhere between about a plus 160 to a plus 175, anywhere between minus 195 to minus 210. That number on Slam Diego, 7.5 is the total. Overs minus 110 to minus 120, unders between even and minus 110. If you're looking at the run line of the Padres, getting that right around about plus 108 to a plus 112, and for the Padres, any sort of plus money on the run line, I'm willing to take it. Set mine at a minus 103. It's been a solid season thus far for Sean Burke, but I still do have my question marks with him. For Burke last season, he was certainly having command issues, giving up about 4.2 walks per 9 innings. That's down to 1.9 walks per 9 innings this year, but he's held to also 6.5 strikeouts per 9 innings, 3.21 ERA, 3.58 fielding dependent. And Michael King may not be back to where he was in terms of swing and miss stuff from a few seasons ago, but he's been plenty effective. 2.41 ERA, still getting about 9 strikeouts per 9 innings, so 4 walks per 9 is a little bit of a concern, but 0.8 home runs allowed per 9 innings is solid. He pitches in one of the most pitcher-friendly ballparks out there in all of baseball, so going up against a White Sox team that entered in this series, a top 5 team in terms of home runs on a per-at-bat basis and games played away from them. They should be able to keep the ball a little bit more in the yard in this one. It's a White Sox team that certainly has power. Mutaka Murakami, 12 home runs going into the series, but you take a look at the starting lineup that they were trotting out there on Friday, and among players with at least 10 at-bats, you only had 2 guys in the lineup that were hitting above a 240, so that's been an issue. Ender Benintendi, along with the young outfielder and Sam Antonassi. These are guys hitting at 225 or lower. You're really getting not a lot whatsoever out of someone like an Austin the Say's kid, who's been hitting at 231 with just 1 home run thus far this season. Miguel Vargas has had a fall off, and with the Padres, Fernando Tatis Jr. entered in the series with 0 home runs. You just need a little bit more there. Manny Machado, well, he's got 4 home runs, hitting just at 222, so that's been a little bit of an issue, but Miguel Andujar has been hitting above 300. You've got Ty France give you a trio of bombs. He's hitting at 290. Xander Bogaerts, all of a sudden, not a waste of money. He and Ramon Laureano combined 9 home runs between the two of them, both hitting above a 250, and Padres are coming off of having the best bullpen ERA in the big leagues last season, and that has dipped a little bit thus far this season. Part of that is because they pitched in Mexico City last weekend. That really warped their numbers. Adrian Morejon hasn't been himself this season. He's been posting up over a 5 ERA after a sub 350 last season. Do you think that turns around? They just get Jeremiah Estrada off the injured list. That should be able to help out this bunch as well. Mason Miller has been one of the best closers in all baseball. And for the White Sox, this is a bottom 10 team in terms of bullpen ERA. When you're utilizing Sir Anthony Dominguez as your closer, not a place where you want to be. Sean Newcomb, Jordan Leisure, these are guys that are leisurely posting up an ERA of a 4+. I would say their best guy in the bullpen, Chris Murphy, is currently on the injured list. Jordan Nix has not been effective. He looks completely washed. So I do think that the Padres going to be able to win this game in convincing fashion. Somebody told 7.6, so I do like the 7 after the over. And with the Padres even money or better, looking at the run line, wrap things up with 979, 980 on the card. The Mets are going to be on the road against the Angels. Reed Detmers is on the bump for the Halos, and Nolan McLean goes for the Mets. The Mets who find themselves as minus 118, minus 130 favorites, between plus 104 to plus 110. That number on the Halos, 8 is the total. Over is minus 110 to a minus 105. Under is between minus 110 to a minus 115. And with the Mets, I did set them at a minus 121 on the money line. I'm going to be one trusting them. Recognize that it's been a no good, very bad, terrible season, but Nolan McLean has been the bright spot for this team. He's got one of the best fielding independents out there in all of baseball. He's been able to do a really good job in terms of both getting strikeouts and not hurting himself. Right now, he's giving up only 0.5 home runs, 2.5 walks per 9 innings, getting 11.5 punch-outs per 9, 2.55 ERA, 2.26 fielding dependent. And Reed Detmers has been much better than what the ERA would indicate. For Detmers, the swing and miss stuff has been very solid this year. 9.6 strikeouts and 2.4 walks per 9 innings, 4.28 ERA, but a 3.22 fielding dependent. Now he's backed up by a bullpen that's in the bottom 5 of the big leagues in terms of ERA. You've had the likes of Ryan Zephyrion, Drew Pomeranz post up over a 5 ERA. Brent Suter's not been bad in this bullpen, but he's a guy that's a little bit up there in years as well. They've dealt with injuries, with having someone like a Kirby Yates along with Ben Joyce being on the injury list. That has really hurt the team. And for the Angels, this is a team that does rely quite a bit on the Powerball, even though they've been moving the line a little bit more than a season ago. Joe Adell, he's already got 3 home run robberies to his credit and entered in this series having been able to hit over a 260 with about 4 home runs. You've had Josh Lowe be a disappointment. He, Travis Serno, a pair of veterans hitting below the Bedell's line of 200, throwing their Yohan Moncada as well. Second out has been at Suck on 5 home runs for quite a while, not necessarily give you a ton of average. average. Same goes for Nolan Chunol, but Mike Trout, 10 home runs, over a 4 on base, and for the Mets, this team is just not hitting in general. Francisco Alvarez right now leads away with 4 home runs. Luis Robert has been a little bit better than he was with the Chicago White Sox, but he's a little bit banged up. He's been in and out of the lineup. Brett Beatty, he's hitting below a 220 with not a lot of power. Bo Bichette, along with Marcus Semien, these guys are just not giving anything whatsoever. MJ Melendez has been hitting above a 300, small sample size, but like what I've seen there. And for the Mets, guys not named Luke Weaver, along with Devin Williams, have been solid in the bullpen. Oscar Brizovin, Brooks Raley give you a sub-3 ERA. Austin Warren has been relatively solid as well. So I do think they yearn for a lower scoring game. Somebody told 7.4, like the 8 under for the Mets. I can't believe I'm willing to trust in them because it's been rough, but willing to go up to a minus 120 on the money line. And that'll wrap things up for the Saturday edition of the Baseball Betting Show, now part of the VSiN family of podcasts. Big thanks to John Jansen, who does such great work over at Fox Sports Philadelphia, The Gambler. He joined me in the last segment. If you do like hearing from this fine podcast, Baseball Betting Show, you're able to subscribe wherever your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, and TuneIn. If you have a question, comment, segment idea, what have you, for this podcast, you have 1 of 2 ways we offer those in. First one is my Twitter/X timeline at @GUnit_D1. Keep in mind, large CM, they mean does not matter, so as per usual, please do send these into the timeline. Other ways, find an Apple Podcast review. If you rate this podcast 5 stars, it's very much appreciated. From there, you're able to fire in whatever you'd like to hear on this podcast via that 5-star review. Coming at you guys every single day with picks and analysis on every single game, every single day. So I'll be back with you once again tomorrow. Thank you.